What's up? We got The Flash, Season 3, Episode 16, into the Speed Force. So this episode starts off with Barry freeze framing over monologuing over the freeze framing of all the characters, saying about how all this is his fault, but he's like, there's only one place he can go to stop it. He's going into the Speed Force. So Julian's like, Barry, how you gonna get in there, mate? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, I have no idea. He's like, we could use a tether machine to get you in there, Barry, son, and get you in there, Barry. So he's like, cool. Let's use that tether machine to get him in there. So meanwhile, Iris is still mad at Barry for basically lying to her about how they really got married and how they really got engaged. So they sent Barry into Speed Force, where he went in the Speed Force version of CCPD, where he meets Speed Force Eddie, and he's like, "Hey Barry," and he's like, "Eddie," and he's like, "Yeah, we won't be a bit, we won't be welcome as we were last time." And he's like, "Why?" And it's because again, you created Flashpoint and messed up everything, but we allowed. And he's like, "Cause his dad died." And he's like, "Yeah, but we allowed you to do that, Barry. But we won't allow you to do it anymore." So yeah, he's like, "I'm here for Wally West." And he's like, "Wally West is in a prison of his own." So he's like, "You should just go home, Barry." And he's like, "I'm not going home without Wally." And he's like, you're gonna be in here for an eternity." So wow, Speed Force. We didn't get to see Speed Force Nora at all. So anyway, so Barry ends up walking into Star Labs, where he's like, "Hey, because of you, Eddie had to shoot himself, and he didn't get to. He was supposed to marry Iris, not you, and he was supposed to live. He was supposed to have a good future, but then you ruined it, Barry." And he's like, "It's not my fault." And he saves us all. Thawne would have killed us he never says this, but I'm saying it. Thawne would have killed them if it wasn't for. Thawne would have killed us if it wasn't for Eddie shoot himself. So yeah, he was supposed to be Joe's. He was supposed to marry Iris. He was supposed to be Joe's son-in-law, not you. So, but now he's just a plaque on it. But now he's just a loving in memory plaque on a wall. Thanks to you, Barry. So yeah, so Barry basically goes to the Star Labs, where he meets Speed Force Ronnie, and he's like, Speed Force Ronnie basically shows him that because Ronnie Raymond died, he and Caitlin never got to have that child together. So he's like, this is all, again, they're basically saying, this is all your fault, Barry, because of you, Ronnie, because of the singularity, and Ronnie Raymond had to die, and he never got to live his full potential of a life with Caitlin Snow, and I don't know why I said her last name, but I am, and he never got to live his full life. So he's like, Ronnie's dying the singularity, and I have to live with that. So then he sends a Black Flash after him randomly, and he's like, "See, Barry, this is all because of you. You couldn't take responsibility for your actions. You wanted someone else to save Iris when it's your job. You put Wally in charge of saving Iris, but that's your job." So is it? And now you realize? And he's like, "Yeah, I realize I should have never allowed Wally to. I should have never told Wally to save Iris. That's my job." So he's like, "Yeah." So Wally's able to stop himself from being killed. Barry's able to stop himself from being killed by the Reverse Flash, and then he goes to meet with. He goes to see Wally, but the Speed Force Snart shows him, and he's like, "Hey, Barry, again, this is all your fault." Basically, they're all showing how this is all Barry's fault. He's like, "This is all your fault, Barry, because of you. Leonard Snart grew to be a hero, like you. And he sacrificed himself, like heroes should, like heroes would." And he's like, "What's happening to Wally?" And he's like, Wally's seeing over and over the most traumatic memory of his life. His mom's death. Wow, Speed Force, that's really grim. Wow. This Speed Force is really dark, man. They're basically telling Barry that this is all his fault, and then they show Wally that his mom's death over and over and over again. What is wrong with this Speed Force? So, oh yeah, so basically, this is the Speed Force basically telling them that this is all Barry's fault. Barry has caused all this. But then Jay Garrick randomly, they're like, hey Barry, when Cisco couldn't find you in the Speed Force, they told Cisco vibed over to Earth 3 and told him what was going on. And Speed Force Snart's like, well, and he's like, well, yeah, so he defeats Speed Force Snart. I'm surprised he can defeat Speed Force Snart, but he can't. And he's like, hey Barry, I'm gonna stay here. Will you take Wally back to Earth? While that's happening, Jesse is basically doing nothing. Jesse wanted to go with Barry to save Wally, but Barry was like, no, your dad would get mad if I did that. But, excuse me, Jesse has done nothing in Season 3 so far. Yeah, I'm going to say Season 3 Jessie isn't my favorite character. Because she did nothing. She was brought in and she hasn't done anything. She could went back to her 2 and she would have done something. But here, she does nothing. Nothing. And I'm just saying, it's nothing against the actors. It's against the writing. It's against the writing. Because Jessie does nothing. Even she, like, HR is like, Jesse even snaps at HR saying about how HR is like, hey, I'm not your dad. And he's like, yeah, you're not my dad, so stop pretending to be. And I'm like, was he ever trying to pretend to be your dad, Jesse? He just wants to be friends with you. Wow, Jesse is terrible person. She has her dad's angericity. So Jesse proved to be a sociopath because she basically just punches HR and feels good about it. Well, Jesse, you should be put into a mental institution if you feel good about punching a guy in the face. Okay, Jesse is crazy because if she likes punching, like punching bad guys is okay, but punching a normal, nice, not smart guy, I know HR is smart, but obviously punching him is wrong, and feeling good about it is wrong. So Jesse, you're wrong. So she basically she throws Savitar's sword back to him, and she's like, and he's like, I have good plans for you, Jesse, quick. And she's like, this is for Wally, and this is where HR realized that Savitar isn't he's just a man in a suit because he can feel injured. He can feel pain. So he ain't no god. He's just a man in a suit. So Savitar just, after getting hurt, Savitar just decides to leave. Not pulling it out. Not like he's just like, oh, I can't be in this fight anymore after getting attacked after getting injured once. So I'm just gonna leave instead of going back to what I was doing of attacking Jesse at all, of attacking Trajectory 2.0 at all. Okay, he said he had plans for in the future, but if he's just gonna go, okay. So yeah. So Barry takes Wally out of there, and he's like, Barry? And he's like, Jay? He's like, yeah. And he's like, he was seeing his mom, and he's like, I know. And they just hug each other, so, yeah. So Wally and Barry go back. Jesse decides to go to Earth 3, because Earth 3 needs a Flash. This is just a way to get Jesse out of the show, because she did nothing, so I'm not, because Jesse kind of did nothing in the show. So this is just their way of getting rid of her. Because she did nothing. She didn't do anything. So they're like, oh, yeah, we'll just send her to Earth 3. And then when Jake. I know I said Jake. So anyway, we'll send her to Earth 3. So she and Wally are still dating. Oh yeah, so Barry decides to. So Barry and Iris decide to give each other some space because it's like, hey, I think we need to take a break. And she's like, yeah, I'll go live with my dad. And he's like, nah, you live here. I'll go live with Cisco. And that's how the episode ends. So this episode was weird, man. Basically, it was just about the Speed Force basically telling Barry that everything he's done is his fault. Eddie dying is his fault. Ronnie dying is his fault. Snart becoming a hero is his fault. And it's basically just like, I'm guessing this was their way of saying, hey Barry, you should never let Wally take your place of letting Iris save her. Of letting him save Iris. It should have been you. And Barry realized that. But yeah, Wally is going to need therapy. Wally is going to need some therapy. Because, how could you get over some therapy? But I mean, that's it with this video. And I'll see you next time for more of The Flash. Zoom, zoom.